Podcast Answer Man, episode number 400.
Entertaining, educational, and encouraging content that makes a difference. This is GSPN.TV. Join the community.
Hello, everyone. This is Michael Hyatt from This Is Your Life and MichaelHyatt.com. You're listening to the man who has trained more people to podcast than anyone else on the planet. My friend Cliff Ravenscraft. He is the Podcast Answer Man.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Podcast Answer Man. My name is Cliff Ravenscraft, and this, my friends, is the podcast devoted to helping you take your message, your business, and your life to the next level. That's right, my friends. It does not matter if you're brand new to this online content creating world we live in, or if you've been creating content for many years. There's something we can all do to take everything we're doing in life to the next level. And that's right, my friends. Wow, I cannot believe it. Episode number 400. 400 of these things. Anyway, so excited to be here with you, and I felt like this episode needed to be special. Episode number 400 is all about taking your message, your business, your life, whatever it is that you want to take to the next level. How do we get it there? And, well, obviously, here we are in episode number 400. This is a whole new level for me. I like to celebrate milestones. I like to celebrate, what's been behind, looking back and seeing the successes and failures that I've had in the past, and looking to see how I've gotten to where I am today, and whether or not what I've done in the past, is it going to get me to where I need to go in the future? And to be honest with you, I don't do this alone. In fact, I am very blessed to have had the opportunity to do life with several people who have helped me along the way. And in this special episode of Podcast Answer Man, I want to bring up a topic that I've mentioned a couple times in previous episodes of Podcast Answer Man. In fact, back in episode number 246, I covered a lot of this stuff when I announced the launch of the Podcast Mastermind, which is something I'll talk a little bit about in this episode. But instead of talking about an organization that I created or that I'm creating, I'm actually going to talk about what is a mastermind group and how you can form your very own, and just how beneficial mastermind groups are. But today is going to be mostly about what is a mastermind group, my experiences with mastermind groups, and what I can share with you to hopefully help you to successfully launch your very own mastermind group that's going to help you take your message, your business, your life, or anything else that you want in your life to take it to the next level. So yeah, let's do that. First of all, the question is, what is a mastermind group? Now, you've probably heard my friend Dan Miller talk about this, my friend Pat Flynn, but if there are some of you out there who might not know who those guys are, which I'm sure that most of you do, but anyway, not everybody knows my friends Dan Miller and Pat Flynn, and the fact that so many of these friends of mine are out there talking about mastermind groups as well. I figure I'll give you a little bit of a primer. So first of all, the concept of the mastermind group was formally introduced by Napoleon Hill in his book called Think and Grow Rich, which, by the way, I absolutely love that book. In fact, I need to go back through and read it again. I'm absolutely certain of that. It's been many years since I read that book. But one of the things that I recall, one of the biggest takeaways from that book was this idea, the purpose of a mastermind. Now, Napoleon Hill defined it as a group that consists of two or more people who work in perfect harmony for the attainment of a definite purpose. I'm going to read that one more time. A group that consists of two or more people who work in perfect harmony for the attainment of a definite purpose. Now, rather than go on and tell you all the things that Napoleon Hill said about mastermind groups, I'm going to play for you a 5 minute and 47 second audio clip from Napoleon Hill, who talked about the mastermind principle and some other principles of success when it comes to our mindset. And I think that talking about a positive mindset and avoiding our own negative things, feelings, and thoughts that hold us back, I think they're appropriate to talk about in here as well because, when I talk to you about some of my suggestions of who you bring into your group, it's going to be important that you understand that these two things are related. So I'm going to sit back and take a break for a minute, and I'm going to let Napoleon Hill tell you about the mastermind principle, this principle of success. Napoleon, please take it away, my friend.
This principle of success is called the mastermind principle. An understandable definition of the mastermind is this. It consists of two or more people who work in perfect harmony for the attainment of a definite purpose. Now, here are some interesting facts about the mastermind which give you an idea of how important it is and how necessary that you embrace this principle and make use of it in attaining success in your chosen occupation. First of all, it is the principle through which you may borrow and use the education, the experience, the influence, and perhaps the capital of other people in carrying out your own plans in life. It is the principle through which you can accomplish in 1 year more than you could accomplish without it in a lifetime if you depended entirely upon your own efforts for success. And I have heard well-informed Bible students say that the first known application of the mastermind was that which existed between the Nazarene and his 12 disciples. Of one fact, I am absolutely sure. When you form a true mastermind alliance with others and work with them in a spirit of perfect harmony, you can draw freely upon the spiritual forces within you in carrying out your plans and desires. I also know that the mastermind principle can give you absolute protection against failure, provided always that your purpose in using this principle is beneficial to all whom you influence. In my research while organizing the science of success, I had the collaboration of practically every outstanding successful man this country has produced during the past 50 years. And I can tell you definitely that their success was due in the main to their knowledge and application of the mastermind principle. I wish also to call your attention to the fact that our great American way of life and our unmatchable system of free enterprise have been built upon the mastermind principle. The greatest document ever conceived by the mind of man is a perfect example of the mastermind principle in action. It is the Declaration of Independence, and the best evidence of the importance of maintaining perfect harmony in a mastermind alliance may be found in the fact that the 56 men who signed the Declaration of Independence knew full well that it might turn out to be either a license of freedom for all mankind or a death warrant which would cause each of the signers to be hanged. And you may be surprised when I tell you that the great Ford industrial empire started with the formation of a mastermind alliance between Henry Ford and his wife. At the beginning of his career, Henry Ford was shy and lacking in self-confidence. It was Mrs. Ford who inspired Henry Ford with the faith and the courage to go ahead with the perfection of his horseless carriage. Although his relatives and neighbors generally tried to discourage him from wasting his time with the contraption, as they called it. In my association with the late Henry Ford, I recognize that he had thousands of people working for him who had much more education than he, more magnetic personalities, more ability to make friends, and a much better chance of succeeding than Mr. Ford had when he was working for wages. But Mr. Ford had one simple quality the others who worked for him did not possess, which made him the greatest industrialist this nation has ever produced. Right now, I want you to do 3 things before our next visit. First, decide definitely where you wish to be and what you wish to be doing during the next 3 years. And second, decide how much money you desire to be making and what you are going to do to earn it. And third, form a mastermind alliance with at least one person in your immediate family and at least one other person among those to whom you are selling your services. By taking these 3 steps, you will have gone a long way toward appropriating the great master key to success. There is no such thing as something for nothing. Everything, including your personal success, has a price that must be paid. Now, before you begin to take the 3 steps I have suggested, there is one important fact I wish you to remember, and it is this. Control your mental attitude and make yourself friendly and agreeable with everyone with whom you are closely associated if you expect friendly cooperation in return. Indifference cannot create a mastermind alliance for you. A negative mental attitude can bring you nothing but failure. Remember always, you are where you are and what you are because of your mental attitude in which you relate yourself to other people. Remember also, your mental attitude is the one and the only thing over which you have complete control. Success is something which has to be planned, and success is something which has to be earned in advance. True, there is such a thing as luck, but just remember that luck is something you can create for yourself if you know the rules and follow them just as I give them to you. Remember, too, that success in the higher brackets of achievement is something that can be had only by taking others along with you. And the best definition of success, which I know, is this. Success is the knowledge with which to get whatever you want from life without violating the rights of others and by helping others to acquire it. And just remember that your only real limitation is the one you accept and set up in your own mind.
Alrighty, there you go, my friends. That's from the mouth of Napoleon Hill, the person who, as far as I know, is going back as early as possible, is the one who came up with the concept of this thing called the Mastermind principle. Now, here's the thing. If you liked what you heard there, maybe the voice is a little bit, older fashioned than what you're used to hearing today. But if you like the message that's in that little audio clip there, that's only 5 minutes and 46 seconds. There are a lot of materials out there from Napoleon Hill, and I am a huge fan of much of what he taught. Not everything. In fact, I'm a believer in Jesus Christ, and so I am a Christian, if you will. And there are some things in there where he attributes things to the universal consciousness and some other things. But here's the deal. One of the things that I had found is when something is true, then it's true. Regardless of who is sharing it, truth is truth. And Napoleon Hill did devote his life, or much of his life, to studying the success of the most successful people in the world. And he put together all the things that accumulated all of that study of what caused them great success, and he shared those principles in a lot of materials that he's created. And in fact, I really enjoy Think and Grow Rich. There's another book that's probably even a little bit more controversial. It's called Outwitting the Devil. But anyway, Napoleon Hill, huge fan of his work, and if you haven't read anything from him, I certainly encourage you to check out Think and Grow Rich. Now, that was his definition. I don't even know if you want, you can go back and listen to what he said about a mastermind group and stuff. But here's my own definition. Now, I don't have this written out in front of me. I'm just going to give you, if you were to ask me right now today, Cliff, what is a mastermind group? I would say it is a small group of people who have agreed to meet together on a regular basis for the definite purpose of improving the lives of each and every individual within the group, for helping each of those other people take their goals and accomplish them, to take their life to the next level. It is there for the purpose of helping others, taking your experiences. If you're in the mastermind group, it's taking your experiences, your network, it's your, your network, your influence, whatever you have, bringing all of yourself to the table for the purpose of using what you have in life to help others in this group succeed. So it is all about, from your perspective or from my perspective, it's what can I give to the other people in this group? What do I have of value that I can give to these people? And the reality is we all have different experiences, all have different levels of influence, different connections, and different ideas. And as a result of coming together, collectively, we have a much greater chance of solving most of the issues that we face in life. So a perfect example of this. Now, I'm not a huge movie buff or anything like that, but I'll never forget seeing the mastermind principle in effect in the movie Apollo 13. Now, this is the astronaut movie with Tom Hanks and stuff like that, and you got this situation with these guys. There's more people in this module than what it was designed to carry, and as a result of that, they were going to possibly die as a result of carbon dioxide poisoning, and this is a true story. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to play this audio clip for you, and then I'll come back and I'll explain how this fits into the mastermind principle. So let me go ahead and play this audio clip for you.
Gene, we have a situation brewing with the carbon dioxide.
We had a CO2 filter problem on the lunar module,
5 filters on the limb.
which were meant for 2 guys for a day and a half. So I told the doc,
You're already up to 8 on the gauges. Anything over 15 and you get impaired judgment blackouts, the beginnings of brain asphyxia.
What about the scrubbers on the command module?
They take square cartridges.
The ones on the limb are round.
Tell me this isn't a government operation.
This just isn't a contingency we've remotely looked at.
Those CO2 levels are going to be getting toxic.
Well, I suggest you gentlemen invent a way to put a square peg in a round hole. Rapidly.
Okay, people, listen up. People upstairs handed us this one, and we gotta come through. We gotta find a way to make this fit into the hole for this, using nothing but that. Let's get it organized.
Okay, let's build a filter.
Better get some coffee going, too, someone.
All right, so what you just heard there, now if you've seen the movie, you probably can imagine what was going on there. But obviously, these are maybe not obvious, but these are 2 different scenes that you just heard. First is the guys discussing the problem. They're gonna run out of oxygen. They're gonna die because of the CO2 emission or gas, and they're discussing the problem. And here's the deal: we have extra filters, but the filters go into this square connector, whereas the extra filters are round, or it could be reversed. It doesn't matter. But the idea is that they're setting up the problem. We have filters, but we don't have a way of connecting them. And so then the second scene is where they gathered a bunch of engineers and they put them in a room. And the guys brought in a box and explained what the problem was. And they said, here's what we need you to do. All of the stuff that's in this box that we just threw on the table, these are the things available to us, or to the guys up in the module. What we have to do is find some way of using these things to make this round thing fit into this square hole. Now, do this. Now, here's the deal. If you take that box and put it in a room with one engineer, it may be impossible for that person to come up with an idea of how to use all these materials to make this work. But working collectively together, one guy says, how about if we did this? And the other guy might say, well, no, that doesn't work. But now that you've said that, what if we modify it by this? And then all of a sudden, by the end of the scene, these guys have come together with a complete step-by-step guide on how to use the things that are available to them to make this round peg fit into a square hole. So they successfully had a mastermind group meeting, if you will. They had this meeting of the minds that came together, and together were able to accomplish plans for success more quickly than had any of them tried to and attempted to do it on their own, or if they could have even come up on it on their own is even questionable. So that, in my mind, is the greatest way of explaining what the value of these different minds, different experiences, different ways of thinking, and all of this stuff coming together. It's about bringing your resources to the table. So that's what a mastermind group is, all right? Now, what I want to do is I want to share with you my experience of being in mastermind groups. So the first one that I want to tell you about is, I'll tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and tell you about the most successful mastermind group that I've ever been a part of. And it actually started out in being in a group that wasn't as successful. We'll call it the Media Makers Mastermind Group. This is the one that I started with my great friend Pat Flynn on October 8th, 2010. So I've been in a mastermind group ever since October of 2010 with my great friend Pat Flynn. Now, I had actually, Pat had reached out to me for some consulting when he was getting ready to launch Smart Passive Income, and we got to talking and stuff like that. And just after our consulting call, we just continued to kind of talk, and I could see, sense that he and I shared a lot of principles and values that were similar and stuff like that. And on a second call that we had, I said, hey, Pat, I don't know if you've ever heard of this mastermind principle. I keep hearing all of my business advisors talk about it and, read about it. I would love to know if you'd be interested in being in a mastermind group. Now, if I'm not mistaken, this is back in 2010. So I believe Pat was already in another mastermind group, but he agreed to be in a mastermind group with me. And so it was the two of us. And then later that week, I had a consulting call with another gentleman. I'm not going to mention the other people's names because, well, the group we ended up disbanding this group. But I had a consulting call with another gentleman, and I felt really good about that connection and the vibe that we had going there. And I asked him if he'd be interested in joining, and I went to Pat and said, do you mind if we bring in a third person? And so we did. And then, later, a couple weeks after that, this other friend of ours asked if he could invite a friend, and it was a female, which, by the way, my very first mastermind group, we actually had male and female mixed together, which I've heard some people out there say that really doesn't work well. Well, it actually does. It's not that big of a deal. So, and in fact, I've got some other experience that where having male and female together was not an issue whatsoever. So anyway, that's just a random side point there that's valuable for you to pick up if you are listening in for insights on successful mastermind groups. So within a couple of months of launching this very first mastermind group with Pat, we had a total of 4 individuals, and things were going great. We met on a weekly basis. We were using my GoToMeeting account for our weekly meetings. We were using a closed Facebook group to have conversations with one another in between our meetings. And things were just going really wonderful. And then what we noticed is that over time, there were issues with people's schedules, and 2 of the other members of our group were, oftentimes, scheduling other calls and appointments and stuff like that during our meetings. And other opportunities came up that they said, hey, can we switch our call to another day of the week? Which was always a real hassle, to be honest with you, to switch these meetings up. But we always tried to make the accommodation, and then what happened was eventually those meetings were starting to not jive with their schedule and stuff like that. And we're talking about on a consistent basis. And eventually, after 2.5 years, it got to the place where sometimes we were only meeting once a month. And even then, those meetings were oftentimes, well, is this the best time for us? And there were only 4 of us in the group. But what we realized is that, this maybe isn't the greatest commitment level that we could have to this group. And Pat and I got together, in fact, after 2.5 years, on March 15th, 2013, we got together and said, you know what, the other 2 can't join us. Let's you and I get together and talk about the status of this group. And I initiated that call, and Pat was thinking the same thing. It's like, listen, this group really isn't working out the way that it used to and the way that we had hoped. And so what we decided is that we both very much wanted to continue, but we wanted to continue on a weekly basis. We wanted to have full-on commitment from the other members of our group. We wanted this consistency in our life from the benefit and the value of this group. We wanted to receive that value, but we also wanted to give that value. It was a part of something that we had grown to look forward to, and didn't like the fact that on a consistent basis, we were let down by canceling meetings or moving scheduling days and stuff like that. So what we decided on March 15th, 2013, Pat and I made the decision that we were going to disband. Now, Pat, I invited Pat. Pat and I created this thing together. And so we together made the decision we were disbanding the Media Makers Mastermind Group. That's what we discussed during that mastermind call. And we decided that we would launch a brand new group. this brand new group, and we came up with the name the Green Room Mastermind. Now, actually, Pat's the one who suggested the name Green Room Mastermind. And the idea was that Pat and I were both really getting into public speaking. And a green room is the term for the room where you go and sit and to get ready to prepare to go up on stage to give your keynote address or whatever, to be out there to share your message. And so the idea is that this message, or this group, this mastermind group, is the place where we come to prepare to take our message to the next level, to take our whatever, it's the place where we come to kind of rejuvenate, to get energized, to get pumped up and excited to go out into the world and make things happen. So that's the whole idea of the name of the Green Room, and I think it's a pretty cool thing to have a name for your mastermind group, personally, that is meaningful. So just again, another little side note there. But anyway, so we made the decision, and we talked about what our new guidelines would be, and what our expectation were for members and stuff like that. And we wanted to be pretty strict. We knew that we didn't have these guidelines in when we started in October of 2010. So we wanted to actually beef things up just a bit and make people commit to this. And not make people, but ask people to commit to this. And if they weren't willing to commit, we wouldn't harbor any ill feelings toward them. We understand that their priorities are in a different area. That doesn't mean our priorities are better. It's just that this is what we need and desire in our life. And we want to know, do other people agree that this group is that important to them? And we made the decision on March 15th that the first two people that we would invite to be a part of the Green Room Mastermind would be the existing members, or the former members, the other two former members of the Media Makers Mastermind Group. And so we asked them to meet with us the next week and say, listen, guys, we have to talk to you. We want to bring up this idea. And we shared with them what the expectations are for attendance and all the other things. And at the end of that call, it was we had spent 2.5 years together, right? So we're really good friends, but they just were not willing to make the commitment at the level which we had set up for this new group. And they completely understood, we completely understood where they were coming from. And as a result of that, they did not come along with us to the new Green Room Mastermind Group. And we suspected that would be the case because, well, this is why we took such a drastic measure. So Pat and I, on March 15th, we started the Green Room Mastermind Group. Now, from there, we invited some other members, and we actually made a list of expectations and what we hope people will commit to, and even how we plan for this thing to work out. We learned a lot of things over the first 2.5 years that we wish we would have done differently, and so that's what we implemented. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to read kind of like the bylines of what I had come up with talking with Pat for our new Green Room. When we invited somebody new to the group, this is what they had to go through and agree to before they became members. And so I'm going to read this to you. You may want to go back and listen to it a couple times, and you may want to jot some things down because some of this you could use for your own personal mastermind group. But anyway, here's I'm going to read to you what they read. So here's the introduction to the Green Room Mastermind. This mastermind group was created by Cliff Ravenscraft and Pat Flynn on Friday, March 15th, 2013. Prior to the launch of this group, Cliff and Pat had been in a mastermind group that they had formerly called the Media Makers Mastermind. That group was formed on October 8th, 2010, and was active through March 15th, 2013. Out of a desire to reboot/refresh the focus of the mastermind group, Cliff and Pat made the decision to completely relaunch their mastermind group as a new mastermind with new guidelines based upon the things that they had learned during their 2.5 years of experience with the Media Makers Mastermind group. The following are the guidelines that all new members of this group must commit to before accepting membership. And here's where you might want to start writing some things down. Again, you don't have to keep these exact things, but at least ideas for you to consider. Number 1, this group will meet every Wednesday, weekly, at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time for 60 minutes. All right? And by the way, it's not 65 minutes and it's not 54 minutes. It's 60 minutes. And I'm that's not written in here, but the idea is that, this is a 60-minute call. Number 2, commitment to the weekly meeting must be a top business priority for each member. That means when you have a big consulting gig coming up or something like that, please do not, schedule that consulting call during our Wednesday at noon. Or I'm sorry, Wednesday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time. If you're going to plan a one-day event, try not to plan those events on a Wednesday, or if you do, make sure that you realize that there are some other guidelines down below that are important for you to know. So, for example, here's number 3, guideline number 3. If anyone misses more than 2 meetings in a row, they will be removed automatically, that's all in caps, by the way, from the group's membership on the 3rd absence. So basically, miss week 1, okay, we'll give you that. Missed week 2, that it's real tough. You missed the 3rd week. On the 3rd week, everybody in the group sends you a very nice message saying, hey, it was nice to have you as a part of the group. We wish you continued success. Unfortunately, due to the guidelines in our group, you are now no longer a member of this group. And so thankfully, we have not had anyone who has been removed from the group. Everybody's maintained their commitment to our attendance policy. But again, anyone who misses more than 2 meetings in a row, they will be removed automatically from the group's membership on their 3rd consecutive absence. Now, here's another rule. Also, if a member were to consistently miss 1 meeting per month every month for 3 months in a row, they will be removed automatically on their 4th consecutive monthly absence. So if you only make it to 3 weekly meetings per month for 4 months in a row, on that 4th month, you're out. So, I mean, it's very clear we're serious about that second commitment, which this is a top business priority for each of the members. All right. As you can see, you can understand why those other 2 members from the original group, they were hesitant to make such a lofty commitment to membership of this new group. And again, we hoped that they would, but we suspected that they wouldn't. But this is something that Pat and I were willing to commit to, and we wanted other people who were equally committed to this group. That was the whole idea. And then also we put another guideline on here. It says adding new members to the group will be agreed upon by Cliff and Pat. However, if there is a suggestion for a new member to be added to the group, all thoughts and feelings from existing members will be heard before the final decision is made. And then the final one is, it is our desire to limit the size of this group to no more than 6 members at any one time. Now, I will tell you, I believe that used to say 5, and we now have 6 members. So I actually updated it to 6. But yeah, there you go. And let's just see who's in my group today. So it's myself and Pat. And then we brought in Leslie Samuel. We brought in Mark Mason. And then we brought in Michael Stelzner. And then we brought in Ray Edwards. So that's the 6 of us. And all 6 of us have agreed and made a commitment to those things. We are all there on a weekly basis. Yes, there are times when somebody can't make it to the meeting. There are times when somebody has to schedule a business trip or a one-day event that can't be held any other time. But never do we ever have anybody who misses consistently consecutive back-to-back meetings, and we never have anyone in our group who is consistently missing 1 meeting per month, month after month. That is, we meet every single week. And there are times when we do cancel meetings, and those don't count towards attendance. But there are times when a lot of us are going to be out out of the meeting for similar reasons or a similar time period. And just every now and then, like, for example, we might take Christmas week off or some kind of thing. But that's very few and far between. Let's see, if there are 52 weeks out of the year, I would say we probably meet at least 48 weeks out of the year. And I would go so far as to say probably closer to 50 on average. So we very rarely ever cancel our meetings, but it is possible. And it's not like nobody ever misses a meeting, because it does happen, but it doesn't happen in any more frequently than what is in the original commitment here. So does that make sense? Hope so. That's what we asked our new members to commit to, and it has worked extremely well for us. Now what I want to do is I want to talk to you about the agenda for our Green Room Mastermind. We meet every Wednesday for how many? 60 minutes. All right. And so it's very clear what our goal is. We want you to be on the call on time. Most everybody is on the call almost every single time, right at the time. Very, very seldom is anybody 1 or 2 or 3 minutes late. And then we meet starting at 11:30, and from 11:30 to 11:40. So the first 10 minutes, every single person in the group is expected to share a win of the week. Something positive, something you're excited about, some milestone that you've reached, some kind of just really cool thing that you just want to share, that you've experienced over the last week. It can be personal, professional, it doesn't matter. Just some sort of win of the week. Starting the meeting on a positive note is so important and valuable, and just getting together. And this 10 minutes is an opportunity for us all to kind of just touch base with what's going on. What's going on? What great is going on in your life this week? And that's what that win of the week is for. All right. Then from 11:40 to 12:30, the last 50 minutes of the group, the whole setup is made to be your hot seat. Now, if you've never heard of the hot seat is where it's the portion of the meeting where every single moment of that hot seat is all about you. If you're in the hot seat, it's all about helping you take what you're doing to the next level. Do you have an obstacle that you're facing? Do you have a goal that you're trying to reach? Do you have a problem that needs to be solved? This is your chance to say, you know what? We've got this CO2 filter that's square, and we need to put it into this round thing, and here's what I have, but I have no idea how to do it. Guys, boom, help me out. Let's build a filter together. And every week that one person is in the hot seat. Now, I can tell you that you could have a meeting where you go for 90 minutes, and you could have 2 people in the hot seat for 30 minutes each. Or you could have whatever. You could have more than one hot seat per meeting. What I have found with this group is that with 6 of us, we're all in the hot seat every 6 weeks. I think that is a perfect amount of time for us to kind of build up and take what we've gotten back from the feedback of others in our previous hot seat, and to go and take action on that, and to move forward, come up with new obstacles or goals that we need help with. And when 6 weeks comes around, there's something new for us to do, or maybe some results of what, from the last advice and what needs to happen next. So every 6 weeks, one person you are in the hot seat, because there's a limit to how many people are in a group. There's 6 of us. Now, let me talk about the format of the hot seat. So let's just say, we've met for the first 10 minutes. Everybody shared their win of the week. Now let's just say I'm in the hot seat. And here's what the format of that hot seat is like. First, I personally will share a shared resource with other people in the group. Now, this could be a book that I'm reading that's given me a lot of insight, encouragement, helping me expand my mind further. It could be a technology tool that I'm using that's helping me be more productive. It could be, anything, some kind of shared resource, something that might be of value to other people in the group. And we're literally talking 2 minutes max on sharing that resource. If people want to know more about that or ask you questions about it, if it goes beyond 2 minutes, then as the facilitator of the meeting, I would suggest that conversation be continued offline so we can continue on with the hot seat. Now, the second thing that is in the format of the hot seat is you want to immediately jump right into stating what your previous goal was the time you were in the hot seat last. So 6 weeks ago, you were in the hot seat and you said your goal was that you were going to do this, this, or this, or maybe it's just one thing. And it basically what we want you to do is tell us what was that goal the last time you were in the hot seat and did you accomplish it? All right. The goal here isn't for us, if you didn't accomplish it and you want that to be your hot seat discussion this week, or this time around, then you can continue on. Otherwise, if you accomplished it, boom, yes, thank you guys so much. Now here's what I want to talk about this week. And that's the next thing. After you've given us an update on the previous goal, the next thing you want to do is you want to discuss anything you want to talk about, whatever obstacle, problem you have, goal you have, what you want to succeed in, how you want to accomplish something, anything. It literally can be anything you want to talk about. And you probably have a good 30 solid minutes here. And I recommend in a hot seat situation where if you're in the hot seat, that you only take up about 3 to 5 minutes of that max. And let the rest of that time be devoted to getting valuable feedback from the other members of your group. So one of the things that I love about that Apollo 13, that clip was, I think, 1 minute and 17 seconds long. It's very clear. Listen to this. Here's the problem, all right? So listen to this. I'm going to play this one more time.
Gene, we have a situation brewing with the carbon dioxide.
We had a CO2 filter problem on the lunar module.
5 filters on the limb.
Which were meant for 2 guys for a day and a half. So I told the doc.
You're already up to 8 on the gauges. Anything over 15 and you get impaired judgment, blackouts, the beginnings of brain asphyxia.
What about the scrubbers on the command module?
They take square cartridges.
The ones on the limb are round.
Tell me this isn't a government operation.
This just isn't a contingency we've remotely looked at.
Those CO2 levels are going to be getting toxic.
Well, I suggest you gentlemen invent a way to put a square peg in a round hole.
There you go. That is okay. Boom. That's our problem. And by the way, that was like 50 some odd seconds. So there you go. This is the problem. This is what I'm facing. Now, let me go to the next scene, which is where I dump out what I have on the table and say, guys, how can I help? How can I use what I have available to me to solve this issue that I have in my life? And of course, that's when you obviously don't want that scene in Apollo 13 where the guys who come in and they explain how, all the reasons why the module, why one of the modules has the square thing and what the problem is. You don't have to tell all of it. The idea is to be clear, concise, and as brief as possible. Just explain what it is you're trying to accomplish, what problem that you're facing, what obstacle are you butting up against, and how can the group help you, and then get out of the way and let the group help you. That's what the whole idea is. All right? And then what basically, as the facilitator of the meeting, that's who I am, and I'll talk a little bit more about the facilitator. But at least in the green room, I'm the facilitator. But anyway, as the facilitator, once we get to, let's just say it's about 2 minutes until the end of our meeting. So it's 12:28, and I look, it's like, okay, hey, it's time to set a goal. You've gotten all this valuable feedback, and things. So you're going to be in the hot seat again in 6 weeks from now. What is it that you want to commit to accomplishing between now and the next 6 weeks? So that is the format. You share a shared resource. State what your previous goal was and quickly give an update on it. Then share whatever it is that you want to talk about to get feedback on. Make sure that you're brief. Let them use as much possible time that's available to give you that feedback. And then at the very end of your hot seat, share a goal. Now, there is one more guideline or commitment that we ask everyone in our group to commit to, and that is confidentiality. And basically, whatever is shared in this group stays in this group unless it's agreed upon by everyone otherwise. Failure to comply with this will result in automatic removal from the group. So we don't go around talking to others about the obstacles and goals and all the other things that other people in our group are facing and sharing in the group. And this confidentiality is just as vital as the commitment to being consistent with your attendance and setting this as a priority. If you don't have confidentiality in your group, you're probably not going to have the type of group that will help you take things to the next level. Because to be honest with you, there are things that the members of the Green Room Mastermind group that has shared that you just don't want talked about publicly. You know, there are all kinds of things. We talk about things in business. We talk about things in our family life. We talk about things in our personal health and fitness. Just all kinds of things. And we need the ability to talk about everything without feeling like anybody in the group's going to judge us, and certainly without feeling like anybody in the group would ever even think or consider sharing outside of the group. It's just not going to be. It's just not going to happen. So we definitely have confidentiality. So that's the Green Room Mastermind, and I will tell you what, I am extremely, extremely blessed to be a member of the Green Room. The Green Room Mastermind. I'm actually looking at my notes here while I'm talking to you. It has radically changed my life. My life is consistently being taken to the next level as a result of this group that originally started with myself and Pat Flynn and those two other members of the Media Makers Mastermind group. And by the way, that group existed for 2.5 years before we disbanded. And I don't want anyone out there to think that group, as it was not valuable. The relationships I have with those other members that were a part of that group, they are extremely valuable to me, and I launched so many valuable things to my audience. That Podcasting A to Z was launched out of that original group in March 2011. In fact, Podcasting A to Z would not exist today if it was not for the Media Makers Mastermind group and the conversations that we had with those four original members of that group. In fact, learnhowtopodcast.com, my free tutorial that has been viewed by tens of thousands, if not over 100,000 now. I haven't checked on it in a while. But anyway, tens of thousands, like 60, 70, 80,000 people have gone through learnhowtopodcast.com. Thousands of people launching their podcast without ever having to pay me a penny. And that was a decision that was made after a lot of heated debate between myself and the other members of my mastermind group, that original group. So, yes, eventually those other members decided that the weekly call was not something that they could continue to commit to. Their priorities had shifted. Again, nothing against that. And I just want to let you know that by my sharing all of the information, I just wanted to share with you the reality of the experience that I've had with that original group and how it led to the guidelines that Pat and I created for the Green Room. But certainly, I wanted to let you know that I value those 2.5 years of experience spent with the original four members of the original group, the Media Makers Mastermind group. And I can tell you the effectiveness of the Mastermind group since implementing the relaunch of the Mastermind group as the Green Room with those new guidelines radically propelled the value of this group into the stratosphere. I mean, it's just amazing the value that comes out of it now consistently and how much everyone looks forward to those meetings. I never have a time where I'm like, oh, I got to do a mastermind call. Never do I have those feelings. All right. So let's see here. We talked about what is a mastermind group. I shared with you the Apollo clip twice now. My personal experience, I talked about the Media Maker Mastermind group. Now let me talk about, let's see here. I want to talk about another mastermind group that I was invited to be a part of. And I'm just going to share some generals on this because it ended up, disbanding as well. So I was invited to be a part of a group that met once per month via the telephone, and that group, I think, if I am not mistaken, had anywhere between 8 to 12 people in it. I can't remember the exact number, but it had way too many people in it. And for a call once a month, and I think the call was 90 minutes, and every call, the program was everybody had 5 or 10 minutes to share. and it was once a month, and I didn't know anybody. Well, I knew about 3 people in the group, and I didn't know a lot of the other people, and there wasn't enough for me to really build and establish a relationship with those guys. Now, this group was also designed to meet in person, face-to-face, twice a year. Now, I did travel to go to see those people face-to-face. The one issue was that I don't think there was ever a time when every single member of that group was face-to-face, and I think we had either 3 or 4 face-to-face meetings. And now I will tell you that the face-to-face meetings that we had, the first one, it was kind of awkward. It's kind of like, even though we had been talking on the phone once a month for several months, it was kind of like we were just still getting to know each other. And that's not true for everybody. I mean, the facilitator of the group had a relationship with everyone. Otherwise, he wouldn't have invited everyone to be a part of the group. But, it was still, for me, it was, I didn't feel connected. And it wasn't until it was actually the second time I started to feel a little bit of a connection, the second face-to-face. And the third time we had a face-to-face meeting, I really, at the end of that day, I'm like, wow, I really starting to feel like I have a semblance of a relationship. But it's a relationship. We were still only seeing each other twice a year. And eventually we had all agreed that we had a conversation. We had all agreed that just meeting once a month, where each of us had a few minutes to talk for 90 minutes, was not really working. And the reality is nobody was really interested in committing to another weekly call. And if I was invited to that group initially, and the idea was a weekly call, I wouldn't have agreed to it because, well, I don't have time for another weekly call. My priority is the green room. And so, not that I didn't think that it would be valuable. It would just be more than what I would be willing to commit to personally. And I think it would have been extremely valuable if anybody else would have met weekly. But I still think there was too many members of that group. I really think that 6 is for me, that's the most I would want in a mastermind group. I have some other experience I'm going to talk about. But eventually that group completely disbanded. We actually decided to do away with our once a month calls and just meet twice a year. And eventually just the number of people who weren't going to be able to make it because of this or that, rescheduling and all the good stuff. It just became obvious that we weren't having this mastermind experience where we felt like everybody was deeply committed to the success of everyone else in the group. And nothing against any of the individuals there. It just didn't work out. And the facilitator of that group ended up making the decision to disband the group. And we're all still friends and have relationships that had been taken to the level that they were at. And I'm grateful for those. And I had a lot of value when it comes to the things that I did get out of the one-day mastermind events that I had with those people, those in-person, face-to-face. In fact, 2 things came out of that group. So again, if you will, this was a failed, mastermind group for me. It was one that, quote-unquote, was disbanded, that didn't last or whatever. But here's the thing. There are 3 things I will tell you. I have a very much a deeper relationship with several individuals who were in that group that I did not have that type of relationship with before, which I'm eternally grateful for. Number 2, the new tagline. This podcast used to open up saying, "Hey everybody, this is Podcast Answer Man. My name is Cliff Ravenscraft. This is the podcast about podcasting, helping you take your podcast to the next level." It doesn't matter if you're brand new to this podcasting world or if you've been creating podcasts for many years. There's something we can all do to take our podcast to the next level. That's what it used to be. But this podcast is not about a podcast. It's not just about podcasting anymore. And so it was that group where somebody actually suggests. I told them one of my mastermind meeting, or my hot seat for the day, was I want to talk about my branding, my messaging about what my show is. And that's where the exact word for word, this podcast is devoted to helping you take your message, your business, and your life to the next level. That phrase came out of a hot seat thing. And then, of course, I modified the rest of it, whether you've been creating online content for many years, because my target audience are content creators. I would imagine that not every one of you is a podcaster, but you are creating content for the internet, even if it's just social media updates. You're content creators, and there's something we can all do. And it's not just about taking our podcast to the next level. It's about taking our message into the world. It's about, if you have a business, and I very much do target business people, because business people have funds that they allot to improve their business, and those are the people who oftentimes want to learn how to do a podcast right, and they sign up for my Podcasting A to Z course, by the way, over at podcastingatoz.com. You can sign up for my May 25th course that's getting ready to launch. But anyway, yeah. So, and then what was the third thing? Did I say the third thing? My one-day business masterminds came as a result of those one-day events. I'll never forget the one gentleman that was the facilitator. Says, hey, what we've done here, just want to let you guys know, I've actually done days like this where exactly what we've done today, I've had people pay $1,000 to attend, and they got tons of value out of it. And I'm like, I wonder if I could do that. And he said, you certainly could do that. And you know what? I went and I did it. I've done it twice now, and it was extremely successful. The people who, and that takes me to my other experience with masterminds. I've done one-day mastermind events. This is I called them the next level one-day business mastermind. And the idea here was, this isn't going to be a small group of people who meet on a weekly basis. Instead, this is going to be a small group of people who meet for an entire day, who are willing to travel to be face-to-face. And I personally made it a point that I made sure that each of the people who did apply to attend that event had reached a certain level to where they would be able to bring value to the other members who were also going to attend that event. Each member also paid $1,000 to be a part of that event. And both times that I did it, it was a massive success. And the whole way that we did this, now, let me just tell you, if I do another next level one-day business mastermind, which I will do eventually, if I do it, here is the preferred format. This is what would happen. The night before that meeting starts, I would ask everyone to commit to coming to dinner, or to coming in town the night before, because we're going to start at 8 o'clock in the morning the next morning. All right. Now, what we would do is I would take everyone out to dinner the night before, and we would actually use that time to introduce ourselves to one another and get to know each other on a personal level. And I would use this method of a single conversation throughout the entire meal. And again, I would definitely limit this group to no more than 8 people, probably. That's about where I would put it. About 8 people. 10 would be really pushing it. I've had 6 and 7, and so I really think that 8's probably the limit. And 6 is actually a perfect number. It really is. So, but anyway, we would have that time together, and then the next morning, what I would do is I would then take some time and personally share some personal resources, some things that I use in my business that are extremely valuable, productivity tips, tools, and stuff like that. And I would take some time to kind of share that with the group. And then what I would do is give each person, depending on how much time we have and how many people there are, let's just say, there are 6 people, each person hopefully would get about 30 to 40 minutes in a hot seat. And basically what I just told you about our personal weekly mastermind group in the hot seat, well, everybody does that in their hot seat there. So of course, they're not going to share what their goal was before, but they immediately start off with a quick explanation of what their problem is that they're trying to solve, what obstacle they're facing, what goal they're trying to achieve. And then everybody pours in other insights and ideas. And the great thing is that everybody's coming from a different background, has different experiences, has different ideas, and it is insanely valuable. The life change that happens as a result of that has happened as a result of those meetings is just out of this world. And most of those people had never experienced a mastermind group before in their life. And my goal is for those people, not those people to have a mastermind group with each other, but for each of those people to actually take the principles of the mastermind and go and create their own mastermind group and to have that be a part of their regular ongoing life. And so, yeah, it's been insanely successful, and I loved it, and I will continue to do more of those in the future. If you're ever interested in a next level 1-day business mastermind and you'd want to be put on a waiting list for that, you can email me, cliff@podcastanswerman.com. All right, so that's that experience. And then, of course, I also had this organization called the Podcast Mastermind. Now, when it comes to the Podcast Mastermind, I am not going to give you a full breakdown of my entire experience there because we're already running this episode very long. And also, if you're interested in learning about all of my experience in the Podcast Mastermind, why I launched it, what the original plan was, what actually ended up happening, how it was successful, but at the same time, why there are so many things that I wish I would have done differently, and why I ultimately decided to shut down the Podcast Mastermind, even though it generated over $57,000 for me in 2013, you can listen to episode number 344 of Podcast Answer Man. Again, that episode is 100% devoted to my experience with the Podcast Mastermind, and I share a lot in that episode. So if you want that backstory, I highly encourage you to check out podcastanswerman.com/344, and I'll put a link to that in the show notes over at podcastanswerman.com, episode number 400. So let me go ahead and just wrap things up here by sharing a few other things with you. First, my thoughts on paid mastermind groups. A friend of mine recently said, Cliff, thank you for the suggestion of mastermind group, but I've pretty much given up because of one of two reasons. Number one, it became too costly, and number two, the other ones that I were a part of ended up breaking up or disbanding. Well, first of all, I've already told you of a couple groups that I've been a part of that have disbanded. Number one, the Media Makers Mastermind Group. Pat and I decided to disband it, but I still had tons of value that came out of that experience of 2.5 years. And I realize yours might be, 6 weeks or even less. But don't give up just because a group is disbanded. The other thing I told you about, the one that met once a month by phone and eventually shut that down, but only met twice a year in person, that disbanded. But amazing things were accomplished as a result of the time I did spend in those meetings. And of course, I shared with you how you could possibly make groups not disband by being a part of a group that has very clear guidelines to it, like the guidelines I shared about the green room. You can rewind and listen to those guidelines all over again. And the other thing is, as far as paying for a group, you don't have to pay to be in a group. Did people pay to be a part of the podcast mastermind groups that I had? Yes. Did they have to pay to be a part of my group if they wanted to be in a mastermind group? No, they could have done it on their own. And I believe there are some benefits to paying for a mastermind group, but only if those benefits are clearly communicated to you and the value that you get out of it is way above and beyond what you're paying for it. And so when somebody says to me, hey, I was a part of the paid mastermind group and it was getting too costly, then that means there wasn't much value there, and it makes sense for you to no longer participate. And so yeah, that's just as clear as it can be. But you don't have to pay to be in a mastermind group, but I am not opposed to people paying to be in a mastermind group. I'm familiar with several of my friends who have paid mastermind groups. I know my friend Dan Miller's doing a large version of a mastermind group that people are paying for. I know Michael Hyatt, my friend, he's got a very high-end, high-cost, high-dollar figure mastermind group. I know that Ray Edwards, my friend, has a high-dollar group, and I may have one in the future again as well. I don't know. Again, I'm not against paid mastermind groups, and I think that they can be extremely valuable. I will probably be doing more paid one-day mastermind events. I'm not opposed to paying for them, but I just want people to understand you don't have to pay to be in a mastermind group. It's not a requirement. In fact, you can start your own. And in fact, I want to share with you, by ending this episode, on thoughts about starting your own mastermind group. And by the way, in the event that I may create a paid mastermind group in the future, it's okay to be a part of a group that's not paid and still participate in a paid mastermind group. And I'm not just saying that so that you might consider mine in the future if you do end up starting your own. I'm just saying that all options are on the table for you. There's so much value in getting together with other people who can help propel your life, your success to a whole new level. So anyway, but let's just focus right here at the end of this 400th episode of Podcast Answer Man on my thoughts on giving you advice for starting your own mastermind. So the first question that I have for you is, should you meet in person or meet online or have it be a virtual meeting? So physically meeting in person, I personally stay away from those meetings unless they are a very low bar of commitment. Like meeting twice a year face-to-face was not too bad, but that's still a lot. Certainly my one-day business mastermind events, well, that's just one day, and there's no recurring. It's I'm going to go there. I'm going to have an intense one-day business mastermind event. Those I can see. But having regular physical face-to-face meetings, I know my friend Pat Flynn has one in San Diego and stuff like that. My only thing is that I personally want to be a part of a group where I don't have to drive to it and stuff like that. On the other side of it, there's a ton of value. There's a deeper connection when there is that face-to-face meeting. And so there's two sides of that coin. Should you meet in person or virtually? There are benefits to doing both. I think the benefit meeting in physically person to person helps you take relationships to a much deeper level, especially if these are brand new people that you're not all that familiar with yet. At the same time, though, rescheduling and travel and all this other stuff, whether you're stuck in traffic, are people going to be there on time? There's a lot more things that could cause the meeting to be delayed or not happen. It's just a little bit more than I personally want to be a part of, as far as a mastermind group meeting physically. If there is a ongoing commitment to doing this consistently over and over again, I want my meetings to be as easy to fit into my schedule as possible. In fact, there are many times where I can be on a road trip, and so I'm traveling to Tennessee or to Columbus or driving somewhere, and I can still be on the phone and call into my mastermind group. I love that. I love that people have called into my mastermind group while walking their dog or while they're actually at an airport waiting to get on a plane. So the meeting virtually has those effects. Now, if you're going to meet virtually online, I do recommend that you meet on a weekly basis, and I do recommend also that you only invite people that you feel a deep connection with. It doesn't mean that you have to have a really close personal relationship with them right now. The goal is that you would develop a very close personal relationship with them over a very short period of time. Over the course of a couple months, you should be very close personal friends with everybody in your group. But the idea is you want to make sure that if you're meeting virtually, it's hard to just meet a stranger and to get to know them. It's possible, but usually, you're better off, inviting some people that you at least have some semblance of I'm connected to. In fact, we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a moment. But who is the facilitator of your group going to be? I'm a firm believer that every mastermind group needs a leader. I've heard about people where they say that the person who facilitates the group gets rotated and stuff like that. I'm sure it works for some people. My own personal experience in all the groups that I've ever been a part of, where either I was the facilitator or someone else was the facilitator, knowing that there's one person in charge of, saying, yes, this meeting is canceled. No, this meeting is not canceled. Yes, we're rescheduling to this day. We're not rescheduling to this day. Yes, it's important for me to decide when it's time to end this call, when it's time to switch from wins of the week, and let's get right into the hot seat. We don't want to take up this person's valuable time. I personally believe somebody needs to be the facilitator, and that person needs to be the same person the whole time. That's my own personal recommendation. So that could be you. You could invite one other person and suggest that person be the facilitator, but have that whoever that person be, I would make sure that you have one person who is known as the leader or facilitator of the group. This isn't a power play. This doesn't make you, the highest priority member in the group or anything like that. It just means you're taking on the responsibility of scheduling reminders, sending out reminders, making sure that the meeting if it's face-to-face, it's making sure you've reserved a room for us to meet, or if it's online, making sure that you've set up the call or whatever, the conference call or whatever it is that you're using to facilitate the call. But having a leader who's responsible for attendance and all of that stuff is very important. So who's going to be your facilitator? And if you're starting the group, chances are it could be you. All right. I highly recommend that you do invitation only. One of the things that I've seen many times, and I think it's the worst thing you could possibly do, is to go into a Facebook group where there's a bunch of like-minded people in your niche or in your industry or whatever, and say, hey guys, I was thinking about starting a mastermind group. Would anybody like to join me? That is a horrible way to start a mastermind group and almost guaranteed for failure. So I highly recommend that you do not do that, and instead make sure that you know the person that you're inviting, that you would desperately want them to be a part of your regular life. So, do these people share your worldview? And not that they have to share your worldview, but is there going to be such a conflict that this is not going to be beneficial? You know what I'm saying? Do you get along well? Do you jive together? You're not looking to get people who are just like you, who think just like you. That's not important. Matter of fact, that is I recommend against that. You don't want to get into a group where people are just going to be an echo chamber and tell you how great you are, and who all think the same thing you do. You want to have some people in there who have different experience, different worldviews of business and success and money and all this other stuff, so you can actually hear from other people's experiences and their own perspective. But the important thing is that you know who you're inviting, so that you don't just get somebody who all of a sudden it turns out that the person that you've agreed to bring into your group has a lot of, let's just say, a lot of issues with negativity, or they're just constantly talking about how sad their life is and how they can't achieve anything, and they play the victim all the time. It's important. In fact, when you're in, who should you invite? I would encourage you to invite people who have a positive mindset, who are goal-oriented, people who are achieving some area of success already. Looking for people who, and I think Pat in his session on mastermind groups in San Diego recently, he says people who are 1 or 2 stages in front or behind you in the area of success in whatever area it's related to. So is your group a mastermind group of podcasters? Is it a mastermind group of entrepreneurs? Is it a mastermind group of small business owners, of dry cleaners? I don't know. Whatever the case may be. You want somebody who isn't so far behind you that everybody in the group's always trying to get this person to take lift and to take flight for the first time. You want people who have had some experiences of some success and some failures, and they've learned from some things, and that's where you are. Now, if you're at the very beginning for yourself, then yeah, you want to have some other people who are also right where you are, but you want a couple people who have achieved some area of success beyond where you are. It's going to be difficult if you're just getting started out. It's going to be difficult for you to get somebody who is, where you want to be 10 years from now. Chances are those people aren't going to want to be in a group of people who are just starting out. It's just the reality of things. They need to have value given to them as well. And it's not like you don't have anything of value to offer. Sometimes there have been times when I see people who are relatively new who give an insight. It's like, oh, wow, they're definitely not tainted by the overall experience of all of this. And that's a fresh, new perspective that I hadn't thought of. But overall, they need to be able to have something of value to offer, so that when that person who is where you want to be 10 years from now, when they're in the hot seat, it's important for you as the facilitator of your group that you're bringing in people in that group that are also going to benefit that person. And if overall the value that you bring to that person, even if it's not a paid mastermind, the question, every mastermind's paid in a way, because we're all paying with it with our time, right? Our commitment to be there at those meetings. So It's important that you get people who are close to where you are, and you have a couple people who are a little bit further down the road. And hopefully those people who are a little bit further down the road of where you want to go, it's hopeful that you and a couple other people who may not be that far down that road are further down on a different road that they need to travel down as well. Does that make sense? It's important that everybody has the opportunity to bring value to everyone else in the group. So only invite people who you know will fill those responsibilities well. All right? How many people should you invite into your group? This is open for debate. I've seen large mastermind groups that are way too large. I've seen groups that are, I've had a group where it's just myself and Pat. And I can tell you right now, you can have a wonderful mastermind group with just 2 people. Yourself and one other person can be great. And by the way, if you're just starting out your very first group, I encourage you to start it with one person and meet for a couple weeks, and don't even feel the obligation to add a third person right away. And when you do add a third person, decide together how you're going to add and approve that third person, and let that grow for a while. But don't feel like you need to start with 5 or 6 people right out of the gate. And certainly I would recommend that you probably stay around 6 to 8 people. And for me personally, I tell you, we just bumped up our limit from 5 to 6, and 6 is working out extremely well for us. But I can tell you right now, that's as much as I want in the green room. And everyone else in the green room is 100% in agreement. We're so glad that we added Ray Edwards as our 6th person to our Green Room Mastermind, and we're absolutely certain that regardless of who else would want to come in, that the size of our group at 6 people is the perfect size for our group as far as the maximum benefit for all people involved. All right, so let's see here. Attendance policy is critical. I think consistency is key. Again, setting the attendance policy where people know that this is a top priority, that missing is not going to be tolerated on a consistent basis. You don't have to be as demanding, I guess, with your attendance as Pat and I were when we wrote our new guidelines, but we wanted people to know how serious we were to the group's meetings, and we only wanted people who were that serious as well. Again, you want to think about the idea of ahead of time of how you will disband the group if it's just you and one other person, if it's not working out. Or what if it's you and one other person and then you bring in a third person and that person isn't working out? Think ahead of time, discuss ahead of time, create guidelines of how you would remove somebody if for some reason they're not adding value to the group. And trust me, that can happen. All right. And then confidentiality. Everyone must agree to confidentiality. These calls, every now and then for the green room, somebody will miss and we'll record the call, but it's important that those recordings are not used for anything other than the person who missed the call to listen to them and then provide valuable feedback to the person who happened to have been in the hot seat that week when they missed. All right. But those recordings are not to be shared with anyone outside of that group. And if we're all in attendance, which we all are most of the time in the green room, then we don't record the call. The call is not recorded. It is there for live conversation only. So confidentiality is critical. Explanation of the hot seat. Make sure you let people know what your hot seat's going to look like. And again, I gave you my example from my group. You can go back and listen to again if you want. And a couple things. When people are in the hot seat, one thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you're not providing pat answers, like saying, just like, oh, just do this and it'll be fine. Give something valuable. Give some valuable feedback. It's like, oh, I tried that, it didn't work. Don't even bother. Don't tell somebody not to do something just because it didn't work for you. Explain your experience and why it didn't work out for you, and always let them make the decision on whether or not they're going to pursue or not pursue whatever it is they said that they were going to pursue. So don't immediately just give these quick answers and immediately shrug off or dismiss somebody's goals or ideas or what they want to pursue. And another thing is when you're in the hot seat and somebody offers a suggestion to you, make sure to not be immediately dismissive of their advice. It's like, oh, thanks, but here's why I'm not going to listen to what you have to say. And I will tell you that even I struggle with this. I see other members in my group, we sometimes struggle with this. It's like, yeah, but this is why that's not going to work. Sometimes it's important to say, thank you for that valuable feedback. I have experienced some things in the past, but and what you're saying doesn't jive with what my experience has been. But I'm going to consider what you had to say further. Or sometimes you have to say it out loud. Sometimes you just say it in your mind and you move forward and you allow people to provide the feedback, even if immediately it may not sound like something that is going to be something that you'll pursue or whatever. But it's important just to hear the perspective of other people in your group. So don't immediately dismiss the suggestion of others. All right? Be a gracious giver of valuable insight and be a gracious receiver of valuable insight from other members in your group. And that, my friends, is what I wanted to share with you in this 400th episode of the Podcast Mastermind. I wanted to share something that's going to help you take your message, your business, and your life to the next level and several levels beyond consistently, week after week, month after month, year after year. That's exactly what Mastermind group participation has done for me, and I pray that it will do it for you as well. And with that, my friends, I'm going to wrap things up here just by reminding you that my next session of Podcasting A to Z is coming up on May 25th. And to give myself just a chance to drink a glass of water here, I am going to play this promo for you.
Are you thinking of launching your own podcast and don't know where to start?
You could have your own high-quality podcast online in just under 4 weeks, even if you have absolutely no technical knowledge about how podcasting works.
Intrigued?
Since 2006, Cliff Ravenscraft, a podcast answer man, has trained thousands of people on how to launch a successful podcast. Cliff has coached top-ranked podcasters such as Pat Flynn, Michael Hyatt, Michael Stelzner, Dan Miller, John Lee Dumas, and the list goes on.
Podcasting A to Z is a 4-week group training course that leads you step by step through the setup of your very own podcast. Not just the technical side, but also the mindset that goes into creating a successful show as well. One thing is certain. At the end of 4 weeks, you will have experienced one of the best investments you can make in taking your message to the next level.
To learn more details about the course, head to podcastinga2z.com. Podcastinga2z.com.
That's right, my friends. May 25th. I hope that you'll be there. And until next time, thank you for tuning in to 400 episodes of Podcast Answer Man. And I hope that you'll take everything you do to the next level.
Podcast Answer Man.